Hello everyone and welcome to today's live IELTS streaming. Alright, just getting ready here for the class. My name is Adrian. I am your teacher for today's live stream. Hi TS, Asri Karina. I see that you just finished your IELTS test. How did it go? How did you feel? How was your test, TS? I hope you feel good about it. Hi, Dostin, Govinder, Mohammed, Rashid. Looking for your answer there, TS. Just checking to see if you can hear me as well. Checking the audio. Did the exam go well for you? Do you find it difficult, easy, so-so? If you want, maybe you can share a couple of the topics in the chat. You think you need to take another test. Why do you think you need to take another test, TS? What happened? What do you think went wrong? I'm not pointing you out here. I'm just trying to get a little conversation going with you. Maybe some other students are also interested in how your exam went. Shiji says, oh, the exam was difficult. Yep, practice is important, absolutely. Hi, Safa. All right, while you are answering those questions, I'm going to get going here. So today we're going to focus on some speaking. So of course, as usual, the materials are coming from aehelp.com and gieltshelp.com. aehelp.com for academic IELTS. So if you haven't joined our full course yet, do that. It's definitely a good idea, girls and guys, to pay a couple dollars, get some quality materials that have good structure, good instructions, and that way you don't have to pay $300 to take the IELTS exam over and over again. It's spend a little, save a lot kind of philosophy here. gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. And of course, because we're doing speaking today, make sure you repeat as much as you can. So especially if you're in a place where you can speak nice and loud, maybe in your bedroom or in a living room somewhere or in a study, then make sure that you repeat as much as possible the speaking questions, the speaking answers, and even just general things that I say. Congratulations, Rahul, on 7. 7's a good score. That's great. Good job. Govinder, nice, 7.5. That pretty much will let you do anything that you wish to do. I believe that even gives you an express visa for Canada if you are applying for immigration. If you're going for school, you can get in for master's or PhD studies with 7.5. That's good enough. All right, so again, speaking today, you can get our books now from Amazon Bookstore. So if you don't want to go to our website and buy our full course there, you just want the exam books, you can get the exam books at Amazon.com, and then you can contact us and we can give you all of the audio for the listening, speaking, reading sections. And then, of course, if you do a search for academic IELTS test, you'll see our books there and you'll see these topics. Just look for AE Helps IELTS books and GIELTS or GE Helps IELTS books. You can also sponsor us now on YouTube. That gives you a lot of special perks. If you're one of the first 10 sponsors, you get free access to our websites. Also, we do special live streaming for our sponsors, and you can access our exam books if you're a sponsor. So that's some good news there for you. Let's get cracking with the speaking. So we're going through our exams. We have 6 of them. We're on exam number 3 right now, if you already have our books. This is coming from test number 3, the speaking section. So we'll be looking at that. Just before we get to the questions, let's talk a little bit about how the speaking works and what you have to pay attention to. All right, so I'll go a little bit of a different direction here for those students who are watching regularly. Okay, when you get to the speaking, what is something important to pay attention to do before you get to your speaking exam? So what should you do before speaking exam? And hopefully those of you who did your speaking test did this over the weekend. What should you focus on? Sleep well, Safa says. Yeah, absolutely. Try not to let your nerves get the better of you. So stay calm, okay? Get some good sleep, have some good rest. Reading a newspaper is okay, GDS, but that's more for reading than for speaking. For speaking, you want to practice your speaking. So one of the things you want to do before the speaking exam is speak English only, or as much as possible, 24 hours before the speaking interview. Okay? So I know that can be difficult. Maybe your friends, your family, everybody around you only speaks your language, but just tell them, hey, even if it seems strange, I'm just going to speak English to you. So if you ask me a question in another language, Russian, Arabic, whatever, I'm going to answer you in English just so I practice my English. Manisha says drink water. Absolutely. Being hydrated, Manisha, is a very good tip. A lot of students actually forget how important it is to be hydrated. The brain uses water, okay, for energy. So if you're dehydrated, or even if you just don't have enough water in your system, it can actually affect your physiology and your thinking. So have a good breakfast, Manisha says. Yeah, absolutely. Have a nice light breakfast, not too heavy. If you eat a lot in the morning, your blood will go from your brain to your digestive system. So that's not good. You don't want to do that. Have a nice light breakfast, maybe some fruits. It's a good idea. It gives you a sugar boost. Okay, so if you have that opportunity, do that. Speak to yourself. Absolutely. It's a good idea. So those are some excellent advice coming from the students there. All right, now, another important tip is go to your speaking test about 1 hour early. And take some practice exams with you, some practice interview sheets like the one that we're looking at today, and ask other candidates to practice with you. And here, you're not only helping yourself, but you're even helping that other person. So you're being a good Samaritan. If I went to the speaking exam and somebody said, hey, I'm doing speaking for IELTS, are you doing speaking today as well? And I'd say, yeah, that's why I'm here. And you say to me, well, hey, look, I have a couple of interview sheets. Do you have 10 minutes to sit down and ask and answer some questions from each other? I would say, hey, what a great idea. You're such a smart person. Thank you for that. Let's do that. So that is an excellent way to warm up before your speaking interview. I keep repeating this advice, but I know that when students do this, their band score goes up by at least 0.5, for some students even as much as a full band score, okay? You got to be confident. Absolutely, be confident. Now, another interesting point, a lot of students, they worry about the examiner. So for some students, it's actually the first time they have a chance to talk to a native English speaker, and that makes them really nervous. Don't worry about that, okay? Native English speakers talk to English as second language speakers all the time. So you're not going to surprise them. It's nothing new. Just concentrate on yourself. And a lot of students worry about the mood of the examiner. They're very friendly, they're grumpy, they're very serious. Don't care about that, okay? Just worry about yourself. So be confident and worry about yourself only. Okay, that's really important to do. Keep that in mind. Some of these might just seem like common sense or, hey, yeah, of course, but it's important to keep that in mind. You're just a number. You're there to get a good score. Okay, and the other important point is don't try to say your truth. Okay, just give a simple, easy answer that gets good scores. And you have to practice this at home. Okay, sometimes what students do on the IELTS in the speaking and in the task 1, task 2 as well, is they try to really express their own opinion. They try to get into some complex ideas. That's not a good idea, okay? Nobody really cares on the IELTS, unfortunately, but that's the reality. It's not university, it's not a debate, it's not the real world. You're not talking to a politician. You're there to get a good score and not have to pay another $300 to take the test again, okay? Make sure to choose easy answers and speak to the examiner like your grandpa. That's what Safa says. Absolutely. So that's a big one, okay? Speak and imagine or grandma as well. Of course, so speak to the examiner as if they're your grandpa or grandma. Why is that important? Anybody, why is it a good way to think about the speaking interview, like as if you're going to sit down and just have a Q&A with grandma and grandpa? Why is that good? Because you're speaking nice and loud, that's right. You're right, Safa, you're going to be comfortable. So Manisha, Safa, right on those 2 points there, absolutely. So you're going to be loud, you're going to be comfortable. Of course, grandma and grandpa might have hard of hearing. They've raised their children. They're taking care of their grandkids. They've heard a lot of loud noise. You're going to be comfortable. Aisha, absolutely, you're right. You're speaking in details, okay? With grandpa and grandma, you have to keep in mind that they're back 2 generations. They don't know the same information, especially when it comes to modern technology, television, internet, mobile phones. They're not in the same world as you, social media. So you have to go into details, and you have to back up your details with examples, right? So those are really important points. Okay, so when you're speaking to your grandma or grandpa, you go into details. You don't think they know what you know. You give lots of examples. Some of the questions are what country or in your country, and people often respond like, in my country, this is what people do, and then they forget to say what country they're in. Even if you're doing the exam, for instance, in India, and the question is, in your country, what is the traditional clothes or dress, you should say, in my country of India, or in the region of India where I live, it is customary to wear, okay? So you want to give those details. Make your speaking visible and quantifiable. Does everybody understand what I mean by visible and quantifiable? Does everybody know what I mean by that? That's a really important one. And that's right, Rahul. India is a very diverse country. It contains about 1/5 of the world's population. So there are variances in traditional clothes. What do I mean when I say make your speaking visible and quantifiable? It's not just descriptive. Yeah, that's right, Shiji. So make it so that your listener can visualize what you're talking about. They can create a clear picture in my mind. What is one of the dangers that students do? So sometimes when students don't speak in visible, quantifiable ways, what are they doing instead? Can anybody tell me that? So when students forget to talk in a nice descriptive way where I can easily see in my mind what you're talking about and I can measure it, because for instance, I say, my school is very close to my house. It's only about 50 meters away, or it's only about 2 blocks away. Yeah, if they don't do that, it's easier to go off topic. Absolutely. And what kind of language? So what is the language that students use? I'm still looking for it. I don't see it in the chat. So let me ask it this way. We can use concrete language. Okay, concrete language is quantifiable, which means measurable. We can measure it. Numbers. Okay, it's descriptive. It's with the senses. Okay, we have 5 senses. Vision is the main one, of course. And then we have the other ones. We'll get to that in a second. What's the opposite of concrete language? So what is the opposite? Let's see if somebody can tell me that. What's the opposite of concrete language? And that's right, Kira. Very good. Absolutely. Sheila, nice. Jumping in there. Absolutely. Abstract. Does everybody understand the meaning of abstract? Okay. So what is abstract language? Anybody? What does that mean? Can somebody give me an example of abstract language? Raul, attractive would be a good example of abstract language, okay? So examples of abstract language would be like far, fast, beautiful, bad, good, okay? That's all abstract language. And the interesting part of speaking is us as humans, we often use abstract language. So when we're talking to our friends or family, our partners, teachers, we're often stuck in these abstract terms. So we say, oh yes, I visited Germany last year and it's such a beautiful country. It was amazing. There were so many great places. I really enjoyed it. I had tons of fun with my friends there. Okay. I kind of get what you're saying, but what are you really saying? All that you really did for me there is you created more questions in my mind. What is beautiful about Germany? Why was it so much fun? What was exciting about it? Can you tell me in a way where I can also imagine myself in your shoes and feel those feelings? Because those feelings might not be the same for you as for me, okay? So you really have to try to get past that abstract language, all right? And I want you to focus on that today as we're doing the speaking. Okay, so it's all right to start with abstract language, but you definitely want to get into those kinds of details that make that abstract language clear for your listeners. So I can say something like, my work is very far from my apartment. Okay, so what does that mean? How far? I come from Canada, okay? Canada is my home country, from the city of Victoria. Far for some people that live in very small countries is like 5 or 6 kilometers. But you might be surprised, even in Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island. Vancouver Island is an island that's 600 kilometers long. Okay, and there's a city nearby Victoria, which is called Nanaimo. Now, notice how I said it's nearby Victoria, but in fact, it's 150 kilometers away. So there are actually a lot of people that commute every day to and from work on the highway, an hour, hour and a half between Victoria and Nanaimo, and they travel 150 kilometers there and 150 kilometers back to get to their workplace. Okay, now for some people that would be surprising, but in Canada there is such a part of the culture that people will travel quite far, up towards 100, 150 kilometers to get to their workplace. So that makes it a lot more clear for your listener. Okay, so that's the kind of language you want to get into. All right, now let's jump at the speaking questions themselves, and then we will go through it together. You get to the IELTS exam. The first thing, you're going to go into the interview room, okay? Just stay calm when you open that door and you see that serious or that smiley person sitting there, all right? Stay calm. Remember to breathe. Remember that it's okay. The sun will shine tomorrow, all right? And then the examiner will say, hello, please come on in. Have a seat. Now repeat after me, okay? I'm just going to do the first kind of general chit-chat part with you together. So just repeat after me, okay? Remember, repeat, 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 all right? And repeat the questions, repeat the answers so you know both, all right? Please have a seat. Sure, thank you. How is your day going? My day's going great. How about yours? Mine's going well too, thanks. Can I start with your name, please? Sure. My name is Adrian Smith. Please just call me Adrian. Okay, Adrian, we're going to begin the IELTS speaking interview. It has 3 parts. I will give you instructions for each part. Before we begin, can I see your identification, please? Sure, here you are. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to place this here until the end of the exam, at which time I will give it back to you. Great, I'll make sure not to forget it. All right, so Adrian, do you work or do you go to school? Currently, I'm going to school. I'm studying to be a doctor, and I'm in my first year of pre-med. All right, when you're not in school, what do you like to do in your free time? Well, I have several hobbies that I pursue in my free time, such as reading books. I especially like nonfiction novels, reading about history, ancient history, Egypt, Rome. Those are my favorite topics. I also enjoy sports. I go swimming 4 times a week. As well, I play football on the weekends with my friends. Okay, Adrian, now we will begin part 1. For part 1, I'm going to ask you some general questions on a topic. Are you ready to begin? Yes, absolutely. Let's go. All right, then let's talk about the internet. Now, first question. How often do you use the internet? Okay, here's your chance. Give me some answers. So how often do you use the internet? So enough talking from me. Hopefully you were repeating as much as I was saying there. Again, these lessons are recorded, so you can see this and practice more about 1 hour after the stream is finished. You can follow it on our YouTube channel, so you can do that. So, how often do you use the internet? Let's see some nice answers from the students for that question. Keep in mind the points that I gave you at the beginning of class. Okay? Remember that quantifiable, visible language. Okay, move past the abstract. Okay, Raul says nowadays technologies are interesting according to time, so most people are using the internet. Raul, you really got to check your grammar. It's quite sporadic, quite a few mistakes in there. Safa says, I usually get online in the evening every day for about 2 hours. Okay, so add a little bit more there, Safa. And I usually go online because it's general. Okay, Pradeep says, I use the internet daily for about 3 hours. And you can give even more details there, okay? Ayman says, I use it every day. Ayman, in everyday conversation, that would be okay, but it's too short to get a high score. I go on the internet twice a day, once while I'm at work, and then again in the evening to communicate with my family. Indira, that was for you, I just expanded. So I go on the internet twice a day, once in the morning for work, and again in the evening to talk to family, okay? Sanim says, in my free time, I use the internet daily because it helps me to learn about different types of news from around the world, all right? A little bit of correction there. Hadil says, I surf the internet every day, most likely from my mobile, not most likely, but mostly. I surf the internet every day mostly from my mobile because it's easy and accessible since I have it in my pocket. Aisha, it really depends on the internet. I really depend on the internet all the time because my work requires it, but for entertainment, I use it daily in the evenings, okay? There's some good answers there, girls and guys. Just make sure you pay attention to those corrections that I'm giving you. There are some small mistakes in several of those responses. Let's take one from Vandana. I would say that my internet usage is a vital part of my day-to-day work. As I'm a researcher, I need to keep myself updated with new information. So I spend roughly 5 to 6 hours, which includes my studies as well as my entertainment usage. All right, note those corrections there, Vandana, to make it more natural. All right, girls and guys, so some good answers there. Vandana, that was a nice long answer. That would get a good score. With the corrections, it would get a 9. Anytime you have a question like this, where it's asking you how often, what that's looking for is what's called adverbs of frequency, okay? Adverbs of frequency are always, usually, often, sometimes, rarely, never, okay? That's generally the category. Now, those are still all abstract, so I like how a lot of you realize that that's not enough. I have to put some more visible, quantifiable information in there, and you guys did that with those hours and those daily, 5 days a week, okay? I take the weekends off. I try to be more in the real world. So, I use the internet often, as both my school and my work require its benefits. I would say that on average, I spend about 4 to 6 hours daily by either learning information or watching entertainment from online sources. Okay, so that's my answer there. Notice a couple of interesting things here. So one, I threw that adverb of manner in there often right away. I'm showing the examiner that I recognize that the grammar is searching for that adverb of manner. And again, repeat after me. I use the internet often as both my school and my work require its benefits. I would say that on average, I spend about 4 to 6 hours daily by either learning information or watching entertainment from online sources. All right, now that's a level 9 answer, obviously. Notice something interesting that I'm doing here. I'm throwing in some what kind of conjunctions. Instead of giving you the answer, again, I want to teach you how to fish. I don't want to just give you fish, because if I give you fish, then you'll be full for the day. If I teach you how to fish, you'll never be hungry. So what kind of a conjunction am I using here? I'm using one of the conjunctions that a lot of students avoid, but they're very useful and they help you to take your band scores up. It's not coordinating. Well, yeah, kind of. They're kind of in there, but it's not coordinating. It's the other one. What's the other one? So I'm using, that's right, Utsa, very good. Jumping in there, correlative conjunctions, right? The correlative conjunctions here, girls and guys, are both and, okay? This is a paired conjunction, so both and is one of them, and the other correlative conjunction I'm throwing in there is either or, all right? So using two correlative conjunctions in this one here, all right? That makes your language more powerful, it gives more emphasis, and it shows that you have a higher command of English, okay? When students can use correlative conjunctions effectively, it definitely shows a higher command of English. All right, let's get to that next question. What are some of the sites you visit frequently? Please answer this one, and hint, hint, there's kind of a hidden question behind this as well that you should be answering. So what are some of the sites you visit frequently? And girls and guys, this is an educational class, so keep it clean. I know that you could make some pretty good jokes here, but keep it clean, all right? What are some of the sites you visit frequently? All right, answer that one for me. And again, remember to make that quantifiable, visible. and there's a hidden question in there that you should be answering. That's right, Hadil. The hidden question is why, okay? Obviously, in a conversation, as soon as you told me that you visit a site frequently, my next question would be, why do you follow it? Why do you visit it frequently? So Pradeep, if you give that answer Facebook, you'll get a 4 on IELTS. You need to give a much more full sentence answer. Safa says, some of the websites that I always browse, nice paraphrasing there, Safa. So some websites that I always browse are pertinent to language studies, such as English, German, and others. And what are they? You have to tell me what they are. One of them is aehelp.com, and the other one is gieltshelp.com, and then maybe some other ones as well, like Cambridge's websites and so on. Okay, Harmeet, I'm a sports person, so every day I check the Star Sports website as they keep updating in real time so that I know what's going on with sports, the news, the events, the scores of the latest matchups, and I like to visit their site because it's free of cost. Nothing is free of cost, Hermeet. You're probably giving them information or something else, or advertising, but yes, you're probably not paying out of pocket. That's great. All right. Bella says, I usually go for YouTube because I can watch a lot of marvelous videos and help improve my English. Better word order there, okay? Marwan, I see your comment there. I usually check my email, Facebook, and news sites to keep updated with daily events. For example, before I came to this interview, I learned that one of my past friends from high school just got married. Okay, give a nice example to back it up, make it visible, all right? Guljan, and again, girls and guys, even though I'm reading some other students' comments, don't be shy. Repeat what I say. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Here's your chance to practice English. And especially repeat if it's yours, okay, if it's your comment. Guljan, I often visit sites related to learning English in order to improve my listening and reading and speaking skills. I enjoy them very much because they are beneficial for my future life, all right? Okay, that's some good ones. All right. Here's an answer I'll give. So, I am constantly browsing social media sites such as Facebook and Twitter because I like to be in the know and keep up with friends and celebrities. For instance, just before I came to this interview, I looked at some great pictures of my best friend enjoying his vacation on the beaches of Hawaii. All right, so there you go. And stop there. Don't keep talking. Don't go off topic. Repeat again after me. I'm constantly browsing social media sites such as Facebook and Twitter because I like to be in the know. That's an expression. And I can keep up with friends and celebrities. For instance, just before I came to this interview, I looked at some great pictures of my best friend enjoying his vacation on the beaches of Hawaii. All right. So that's a good answer for that one. Again, remember to give these examples, okay? Students often forget to include enough examples, and examples really make communication a lot more powerful and a lot more enjoyable. Go ahead, Marwan, throw your question out there. I'll try to catch it, okay? Meanwhile, we'll jump into the next question here. Here we go. Do you use the internet at school or at work? All right, think about some answers for that one. Obviously, you need to give some examples there. And if you've mentioned work already, then incorporate that into your answer. So put that into your answer somehow. Saifarul, I see your question there. I learn English from news TV channels like BBC and CNN and Al Jazeera. Is this helpful? Yes, that is a good way to study English, but don't just do that. Do other study methods as well. Okay. Marwan, how long should the answer be? Great question. That's a very good question. Notice the length of my answers, okay? They're roughly about 2 sentences. Now, of course, when you answer in complex sentences, so you're using subordinating correlative conjunctions, your answers are roughly about 20 to 30 words. That's what I would say for this part 1. Now, having said that, the important point is don't go off topic. If you feel like you're going off topic, a very good trick that you can do is stop yourself and actually say, okay, let me get back to the topic. I'll give you an example, all right? So I'll give you that piece of strategy here, all right? I don't think I've mentioned that one for you in the past. So if you feel yourself going off topic, stop, say, I'm going a bit off topic. Let me rephrase myself by giving you an example. And then, of course, give an example. All right? Don't just keep going off topic. I've actually seen students do that where they're going off topic. I can see in their eyes that they're going, oh man, I think I'm totally out to left field, but I'm too far now and I can't return, so I'm just going to keep going and going until the interviewer says, just stop, or okay, let's go to the next question. Don't wait for the interviewer to say, okay, let's go to the next question. Do it yourself. All right, let me read some of those. PS Studio, I use the internet at both places. Sorry, it's gone off the chat. By the way, girls, guys, you can make your comments sticky if you use Super Chat. Guljan, I usually use the internet for my work. I am a teacher. Therefore, it is necessary to do a great job. It helps me a lot, and I want to be up to date and use the latest methods and technology for teaching. Also, it's an effective tool. It gets the students more engaged. Bella, Thoa, I'd rather go online at school to help my learning and gain more useful information. For instance, whenever I get stuck with a difficult task, such as a tricky calculus question I had last week, I do the research online and there always seems to be a solution. Aisha, in my country, unfortunately, mobile phones are banned and therefore the internet is difficult to access. So I can only use it at work or in my free time. I'm guessing mobile phones are banned in schools, Aisha. If that's the case, make sure you say that, okay? So in my country, unfortunately, mobile phones are banned in schools. Therefore, I only use the internet at my work or in my free time. Utsav, I'm a school teacher. I mostly use the internet at school as a resource for education. My students also make use of it. I'm trying to, Utsav, you got a couple of grammar mistakes in there, so it's difficult for me to hash out what you're saying, but I'm trying to. As a resource to get educational materials for my students, and also I need to make my lessons class for my classes, which I do through an online e-learning portal. The internet always comes in handy for me. Okay? All right. Safa, let's read yours, and then we'll move on. In fact, I need the internet for both my college and work. At the school, the internet is necessary to connect in order to explain the materials in the subjects, and it is necessary to do some administration for my work. All right? Okay, good. Let me go in there and give you an answer. And here, of course, when you have a question where do you use it here or there, it's a really easy situation to throw in a correlative conjunction. Not only do I use the internet at school for assignments, but but I also rely heavily on the web for my work, as I am a computer programmer. For instance, I develop websites for education companies such as IELTS. Okay? Which, I need a bit more explanation here, deals with IELTS preparation courses. Okay? So again, this type of question, really easy to put that correlative conjunction in there. Not only do I use the internet at school, so again, repeat after me. Not only do I use the internet at school for assignments, but I also rely heavily on the web for my work, as I'm a computer programmer. For instance, I develop websites for education companies such as IELTS, which deals with IELTS preparation courses. Okay, good. Remember, we're still on part 1 here, so you're moving through this nice and fast. Next question, is internet access commonly available in your country? Of course, when you have this yes-no type question, then you should immediately be thinking about a reason. Now, when you're thinking about a reason, you should immediately be thinking about a subordinating conjunction of cause and effect. Now, if you're thinking about a subordinating conjunction of cause and effect, you should think about more than just because, okay? Sometimes I see students using because too much. So because. There are other ways to express cause and effect. Think about that. Use some other ways, okay? So please answer this question. Don't use because. Use something else. Utsav says, as I come from India, which is growing rapidly in terms of technology, the internet can be accessed quite easily in my country. Okay, that's pretty good. And you're using as I for your cause and effect here, which works. As shows cause and effect as a coordinating conjunction, so that's not bad. Let's see some other answers. Again, if you're not familiar with these correlative, coordinating, subordinating conjunctions, I highly recommend visiting our websites, aehelp.com and glshelp.com, where you can find explanations for that even in your free course. Navyat Kaur says, yes, the internet is ubiquitous in my country. People use it in their workplace to complete assignments, and students use it for study. Nice high level of vocabulary there with ubiquitous, although it might not be completely true yet, because ubiquitous would mean almost flawless. Saneem, in my country of Nepal, very good. You put your country in there, great. Saneem, I'm already giving you an extra band score just because you mentioned your country. So in my country of Nepal, internet access is not popular in all areas. However, this technology is developing. The reason for this is Nepal still has many rural villages, places where there is a lack of infrastructure. Okay, that would be a little bit more, Saneem, to get you that better score. Mar says, in Egypt, the internet is available everywhere, especially through Wi-Fi or mobile phone access. Since there has been a rapid growth in technology over the past 20 years. Okay, let's take that one. So, in my country of Egypt, the internet is readily available through Wi-Fi and mobile networks, since there has been massive infrastructure expansion initiatives by the government over the past 2 decades. Now, sometimes students say, hey, why is it that native speakers don't get a 9 on IELTS? Does anybody know what a band 9 actually means? Marwan, that's a nice answer, by the way. I just read that. It's good. It's quantitative. Does anybody know why native speakers don't get a 9 on IELTS all the time? That's right, Safa, because a 9 doesn't mean that you're a native speaker. 9 means that you're an expert speaker. And being an expert speaker doesn't necessarily depend on your ability to speak a language, even your own language. Being an expert speaker also relies heavily on your communication skills. How effective are you at communicating your ideas clearly? I have met many English as a second language students who are expert users of English and their own language and would get a 9 on IELTS. And I've also met many native English speakers who would have a very difficult time to get even an 8 or an 8.5 on IELTS because their use of the English language is not what I would consider or what many would consider an expert level, okay? Yes, Sasa, 3 times over. All right, repeat after me one more time. In my country of Egypt, the internet is readily available through Wi-Fi and mobile networks since there has been massive infrastructure expansion initiatives by the government over the past 2 decades. What grammar am I showing here? What command of grammar am I showing here? Can anybody tell me? What type of grammar form am I showing the examiner that I know? Alien Eater, if you're talking about the same Chuck Norris, I believe that was a 10 to the power of 10. Yep, that's right. I'm showing present perfect and passive. So passive present perfect has been massive infrastructure expansion by the government, right? So I'm showing passive present perfect. That's right. Very good. Good for you, those students that are catching on that. So they are checking that. They are looking to see how well you can express your English through more complex grammar forms such as present perfect or even throwing in that passive present perfect. Okay, I'm going to jump through that last question. Why do you think people use the internet? You can do that one at home. Let's jump to part 2. Okay, let's go to part 2. Part 2 is the one that kind of scares people, rightfully so. Most of us don't do little mini speeches daily, so it's something that you have to practice. This is something that if you're a native speaker, you definitely want to practice, even if you have perfect English, because here you have to talk for 2 minutes. It has to be clear. It has to make sense. It has to have good structure. So here you're asked to describe your best friend, okay? So once you're done part 1, the examiner is going to say, all right, that's the end of part 1. Now we will go on to part 2. For part 2, I'm going to give you a card with some questions on it. You will have 1 minute to prepare your answers. Here's some note paper and a pencil so you can take notes. After you're done your 1 minute preparation time, you will have 2 minutes to speak. I will tell you when to start and when to stop. Are you ready to begin? And then you say, yes, I am. And then they'll say, okay, your 1 minute preparation time begins now. You may turn over the card. And then you turn over the card and you get these questions, okay? Now, your questions will be one of 4 categories. Just for a quick review, especially for good information for those students who are new to this live stream, what are the 4 categories of Part 2 cue card questions? What can they be? And you need to practice each one of these at home. It's very important, okay, so you can get a good score. What are the 4 categories? All of these Part 2 topics here, it's your best friend, fall into one of these 4 categories. What are they? What are your 4 categories? That's right, Hadil. Very good. Quick out of the gates. It's a person, an event, an object, or a place, okay? In this case, it's obviously a person. Another topic could be an event, a birthday, a celebration, a cultural festivity, or something like that. So it can be some kind of an event. It can be a memory that you had. It can be an object, okay, something that you bought, something that you got gifted. I believe one of the recent ones was something that you saved money for. And then obviously it can be a place as well. Now sometimes it can be tricky because the one I just said, something that you save money for, that could be an event. You can save money for a wedding, or it could be an object. So you could save money for a car. In that case, you have to decide which direction you go, all right? But it's going to be a person, event, place, or an object. Obviously, I can't tell you the strategies for all of them. That's at least a couple of classes. For now, let's focus on person. Person is probably the more common one, although they do like to switch it up. So for person, for part 2, you need to focus on what? What should you include without even looking at the card? So you don't even look at the questions yet. You just get the card, but without even looking at it, what should you keep in mind? Yeah, you got to throw a little bit of appearance, and this is going back to that visual, so that visualization, having your listener be able to visualize what you're talking about. So appearance. What else? Personality and action. That's right, Hadil. Okay, and personality is always backed by action. Backed means supported. I'll be a little bit more clear here. Okay, by the way, this is one of the most common places for students to use too much abstract language. My best friend is fantastic. He's so kind and super friendly, always smiling. He's really a happy guy. I love to hang out with him. We do a lot of great things together, and he's exciting. Also, he's super brave. He's always the first one. He's always a really brave guy. So what happens is students, what I see often, will get into these really abstract ideas, especially with people and personalities, and completely forget that when you say something like he's kind, you need to back it up with some kind of visible, measurable action. Like every Friday, he donates 2 hours of his time at an elderly home and plays cards, some poker usually with the elderly folk there. Okay, so you have to include that, all right? So it's the most common place or most common part of speaking where students get lost in abstract language. And of course, don't do that. All right? Bring it down to earth. Make sure that you are able to stay in the visible, measurable realm, so it's easy to understand. All right, so let's go back to the card, okay? So now that you know that, let's go back to the card. Let's look at these questions. So who the person is, how the two of you met, what is it that makes this person your best friend? Okay, what's a good way to start my response here? Okay, I'm going to use some of your advice here. Okay, so Bella says, I have a group of best friends, and I'd have to say that my closest friend is Nung. She is also a friend from high school. That's a little bit awkward because she is your best friend. So she is a friend from high school. We have been best friends for about 6 years, all right? Again, you're jumping really, really far ahead there, Bella. You want to slow that down a bit and get into a little bit more details there, all right? Okay. I have a group of good friends, and I'd have to say that my best friend is Anar. Okay, good. Now, Guljan is giving me some description there. So she is 23 years old. Okay, and then you go, Guljan, into way too many personality traits without giving me enough details. So you say she's easy to talk to, she's trustworthy and kind, all right? Obviously here we need to expand on this. So she is 23 years old. What would be good to say after that? Okay, so somebody give me some information. What would be a good way to continue from here? Okay, Aisha says with curly hair. That's good. She's 23 years old and has long, dark, curly hair. It is one of her most visibly identifiable features. Sure. Yeah. So allow me to visualize your best friend. Not just see some general shape of a person, but actually see your best friend. She's fairly tall. Okay, good. Yeah, so you're giving me some description. Yeah, and you don't want to spend too much time, obviously. So the question isn't what does she look like, but just give me enough that I can visualize her. She is tall and slim and keeps fit. All right, yeah, sure. Get into a little bit of detail there. So she is tall and slim and keeps very fit because her and I go to the gym 4 times a week. I guess you could say she's not only my BFF, but also my workout partner. Great. All right. Now, what should you do after this? So you get to this part here. You've said this much. You've identified the person. You've given me a bit of physical description so I can see this person now. I can say things like Harkiran Kaur is saying she stands with me through thick and thin. Sure. What should I do now? Yeah, Hadil says, another way, Hadil, that we can frame that is look at the card, okay? So many students forget to look at their notes and look at the card, okay? I've seen so many students do the part 2 in IELTS. They get the question, they look at the card, they write down their notes, and then the examiner says, okay, now you have 2 minutes to talk. They're really anxious, they're nervous, they just want to talk. And then they just look at me, if I'm the examiner, and they're just talking, and not one time do they look at the questions or do they look at the notes. That's not a good idea. You want to look at the questions, you want to look at the notes. Make sure you're answering those questions because that's how you get your mark, okay? That's your task completion. And you need to look at your notes so that you don't forget to say some important points, all right? Keep that in mind, all right? Keep that in mind. All right, so yeah, absolutely. You want to answer that second question. Okay, so let's look at that question. How the two of you met, okay? We met in high school and went to the same college. You're jumping ahead a little bit there. So, so we met about 6 years ago in grade 11 at Central City High School, okay? Notice here that I'm being specific. We met about 6 years ago in grade 11 at Central City High School. Notice that quantifiable language again, 11, 6 years ago, okay? So I'm getting into quantitative language. Don't use the word things, Navneet, okay? What should I write after this? So what would be some smart information to say after this here? And in my notes, I would probably just write 11 Central or high school, right? Because that I know the information, okay? Yeah, you can write her and I. Sure, Manisha. It's not a grammar mistake. My grammar checker would have caught it for me, most likely, if it is, especially for that kind. Yeah, Chandramuli, that would also be okay. Let's keep going on here. What would be a good way to continue here? So I want to inspire your critical thinking here, inspire your logical, coherent thinking. Okay, what do we want to do here? We met by chance, Aisha. That would be okay as well. Make sure that if you start talking about we met by chance, then you go into details. It was the best chance ever doesn't make sense because best chance is used in a different context in English, Aisha, so careful. Make sure if you use an expression, you know that it works in English. What should I say after this, girls and guys? Come on. I'm looking for those answers. We met about 6 years ago in grade 11 at Central City High School. What should I do? What should I say? No, I don't see the answers yet. Why did you become best friends? So again, think about questions for yourself. So here, if I'm the examiner, okay, let me spin this on you a little bit. Let me turn this on you a little bit. If I'm the one telling you this, so I'm the one saying we met about 6 years ago in grade 11 at Central High School, what would you ask me? What would be a question that you would ask me? And this is one way to think about part 2 as an internal dialogue of questions and answers. Okay? So Alien Eater says back then she was already a great person, very generous. She gave me all kinds of delicious foods that her mom prepared. Okay, we shared a bench during our class and started sharing ideas during our classes. Yeah, exactly, Hadil. What happened? Okay, what happened in high school? How did you actually meet? Okay, so that would be the question. So how did you meet exactly? What happened? Okay, so that's what you should be thinking about. All right? So, in fact, I still remember very clearly So in fact, I remember very clearly that we met in physics class. She was my lab partner, and we could never stop laughing because of her great jokes. Okay? So something like that. All right. So in fact, I remember very clearly that we met in physics class. She was my lab partner, and we could never stop laughing because of her great jokes. All right. That's when we became friends for life. All right. So something like that. Go into those details. All right. You want to go into those details. Okay, let's jump back now. Obviously, you want to answer the next question. What it is that makes this person your best friend? Somebody tell me, what is it that makes somebody your best friend? In one simple sentence. What makes anyone your best friend? Generally speaking, of course, we'll go into details after that. Great sense of humor is a nice way to express it as well, Sasa. So before you go into kind nature, before you go into anything like that, something that you have in common, sure, honest, but what makes a person your best friend? Keep it simple. What are the 3 points that we have to include when you're talking about a person? When you're talking about a person, you talk about a little bit about what they look like. You talk about their That's the answer I'm looking for. That's right, Rusdi. It's the personality, right? Right, Amit? It's the personality. The personality of another person makes you their friend or their best friend or your partner in life, your wife or your husband, right? So that makes anar. And don't forget to reference back the name, okay? So if you're talking about your best friend, say the name, right? It is your unique personality that makes Anar my best friend and some common interests or many common interests. Okay, good. Sure. So that's a good way to open it up. If you're writing an essay about your best friend, this could be your topic sentence, or this could even be your thesis sentence in your introduction, right? And then you can say something like, I'm attracted to her authenticity, Saisha is saying. So, for instance, I am always attracted to her authenticity. She is never afraid to express her own opinion, even if it goes against the grain. Now, here I threw an idiom in there, that's okay, but with idioms, just be really, really careful, or with expressions that you know that they're good in English, they make sense, okay? So she is never afraid to express her own opinion, even if it goes against the grain. All right, grain, of course, you know this if you work with wood. When you're working with wood, wood has grain. The grain of wood is the direction of the pieces or the cells of the wood. And then if you're working with wood, you always go with the grain, never against it. Otherwise, it tends to not look very nice. So she's never afraid to express her own opinion, even if it goes against the grain. Fine. What should I have after this? Okay, so I see some good advice there, and I see several of you giving some nice suggestions. But just let's stick with the flow of this response here. What should I do right now? Furthermore, she's always ready to help me is good. Yes, that's right, Kira. That's what I'm looking for. Give an example of that. So back that up with some example. Can somebody give me an example of somebody being authentic and giving their opinion even if it goes against the grain? Can somebody give me a good example of that authenticity? Anybody have a good example for authenticity and not being afraid to express your opinion even if it goes against the grain? Let's see. I'm challenging your English and your critical thinking with that question. Okay, I'll give you a couple of seconds. I don't want to just give these answers to you. Okay? Let's see. Somebody give me something nice. Go against the grain means go against the mainstream. I'll put that into brackets here for you. Go against the grain means to go against the popular opinion or position. Yeah, so Kira says one day she stood bravely in front of the school principal to speak about some of the issues of teachers being too aggressive with students or something like that. Absolutely. Okay, Kira, that's good. It doesn't have to be a perfect example. She has a strong position at work, would be so-so, all right? So something controversial, maybe, for example, even though many people think that women in my country should not have driver's licenses. She always rallies for this privilege to be equal for both genders. Okay? So obviously a hotly debated topic in some countries. Sure, why not? Throw it in there. Get it going, all right? Even though many people think, not thing, that's a typo there, think that women in my country should not have a driver's license or should not have driver's licenses. She always rallies for this privilege to be equal for both genders, all right? So there you go. That would be an example of going against the grain and of somebody being very authentic in their opinion. Okay, good. Now, if you've mentioned that you have some things in common, you would probably want to give an example for that. Let's see what some of you wrote up. For instance, in my math class, I cheated with my teacher as soon as she told the matter and asked to pardon me. Yes, that's not really expressing what I wrote here, Lytton, but it's a good example. Amit says, for instance, a few months ago, a criminal committed an offense against an old woman. She captured that moment using her mobile phone and showed it to the police. It was very helpful, fruitful is a bit awkward there, helpful to catch the culprit would be a way to paraphrase criminal, culprit. Okay, but good job there, Amit. All right, so here we go. What do you have in common? One of our mutual interests is dance. Since our childhood, both of us have been practicing jazz dance. When we discovered this in high school, we decided to form a dance troupe together. Okay, so something like that, all right? So again, you'd want to have notes on this. So if we go back, I'm going to show you something here in a second with your notes, what your notes should look like in a reverse order based on your information, okay? So now what you'd want to do is you want to check and make sure that you've answered all of the questions, okay? So you answered who the person is. Yep, you've answered how the two of you met. You've done that. What makes this person your best friend? Yep, you've done that. Describe your best friend. Sure, you've done that. So that looks good. You're not missing any of the answers. What should you do next? So you're not missing any answers. What is the next step? What is a good next step to take? Anybody? You could give, if you're a good speaker, you could talk more about the personality. You could talk more about your common interests. But for practice purposes, yeah, that's right, Kira. So some kind of a concluding sentence, some kind of a wrap-up, something so that your listener knows that, hey, I've said my piece, and now I'm ready to go. So, so wrap it up, okay? So let's wrap this up. Can somebody help me wrap up? That would be one way to wrap up, Marwan, is emphasize that she is your best friend. Okay? Draw the line. Yeah, that's a good way to say it, Jeffrey. So draw the line, the finish line, right? Show that you're done. So can somebody help me to wrap this up with a good concluding sentence? Sujam, we're in speaking right now. Reading was earlier this week, and it will be next week for the next reading. Yep, for these reasons, I've chosen her to be my best friend. It's okay. Recapitulate is okay. It's a bit of an awkwardly complex vocabulary, Resky, to use in this. I probably wouldn't use it. I would use recapitulate if I was talking about some very tricky theory in psychology and I wanted to summarize it, then I might use that. To sum up, yeah, you could say that. It's a little bit awkward in speech. So, in the end, I'm certain that her and I will be friends as long as we are alive. We keep in touch regularly and always find old and new ways to entertain each other and have fun in life. Okay? Something like that could work. So in the end, I'm certain that her and I will be friends as long as we are alive. We keep in touch regularly and always find old and new ways to entertain each other and have fun in life. All right? Okay, so let's go through this from the beginning. Just repeat after me. Okay, so this is a nice long repetition. Is everybody ready? We'll do a nice long repetition here and then move on to a couple questions out of part 3. Everybody ready to do a nice long repeat for part 2? I'll try to go at a nice comfortable pace. Jeffrey says yes. That means hopefully others are ready as well. Okay, so here we go. I have a group of good friends, and I'd have to say that my best friend is Anar. She's 23 years old and has long, dark, curly hair. It is one of her most visibly identifiable features. She's tall and slim and keeps very fit because her and I go to the gym 4 times a week. I guess you could say she's not only my BFF, but also my workout partner. We met about 6 years ago in grade 11 at Central City High School, where both of us graduated from. In fact, I remember very clearly that we met in physics class. She was my lab partner, and we could never stop laughing because of her great jokes. One day, we got into a lot of trouble because we were so hysterical. The teacher actually asked us to leave the class and not come back in until we calmed down. That's when we became best friends. It's definitely, I'd have to say, yeah, for sure. It's her unique personality that makes Amar my best friend, and also some common interests that we've shared and that we've had as children. For instance, I'm always attracted to her authenticity. She's never afraid to express or give her own opinion, even if it goes against the grain. Although many people think that women in my country should not have their driver's licenses, she always rallies for this privilege to be equal for both genders. Beyond that, one of our mutual interests is dance. Since our childhood, both of us have been practicing mainly jazz dance, also a little bit of ballet. When we discovered that both of us loved this activity in high school, we decided to form a dance troupe together, and we still do some performances, I'd say maybe like once or twice a year. So in the end, I'm certain that her and I will be friends as long as we are alive. We keep in touch regularly, if not face-to-face, then on the phone. And I'm sure that we'll always find both old and new ways to entertain each other and have tons and tons of fun in life. Okay, so again, if that was a little bit fast, if you're having a little bit of a challenge to keep up, that's totally fine. Remember, this class is being recorded, and you can watch it again on the YouTube channel about a half hour after we're done streaming. So you can go through it again and repeat. I'm not sure if it was much more than 2 minutes, Hiral. I wasn't watching the time myself, but I would say it was roughly 2 minutes. If you're going along at that pace, there's a good chance that you might be able to finish what you're saying, all right? Definitely practice that 2-minute time constraint at home. You need to be sure that you're comfortable with that, okay? All right, so when I'm taking my notes, so here for my notes, what I would have is, okay, and this is kind of a reverse engineering here, all right? So I'm doing a little bit of reverse engineering here. In my notes, I'd probably want to have as much of the same order as possible. So 23, curly hair, gym, something like that. Okay, so again, what I'm basically doing here, girls and guys, is I'm reverse engineering what we wrote down and showing you what should be included in my notes to help me with this speaking, okay? High school physics. Good jokes, all right? Remember, you have 1 minute to write down your notes, so of course, a lot of the time you're spending thinking. Now you can fill in the blanks. Notice that when I was speaking, I was filling in the blanks as well, okay? All right, so adding that detail. Okay, so that would be roughly what my notes would look like on my note paper to help me put this together. Now, when you have these notes, what's important is that you're not just quickly jumping from one to the other. What I often see students doing is, she's 23 years old and has curly hair. She's my gym partner. We met at high school in a physics class together where she told lots of good jokes. She was my lab partner. Oh, she's super authentic. She advocates for women to drive, and we have a lot of common interests like dance and jazz. That's why she's my best friend. That was like 30 seconds, okay? Maybe not even. So if I go through my notes that quickly, obviously I'm not going to last 2 minutes. I'm going to finish way too fast. What I'm missing is that quantitative information, right? I'm missing a lot of that 6 years ago and the additional details, that visual information of she's slim and fit. So that's what you want to get in there, that quantitative information. 6 years ago, grade 11, Central City High School, okay? So use your notes and expand on those notes. That's what you want to do, okay? You want to make sure that you're expanding on those notes. All right, does that make sense for everybody? Does anybody have any questions about part 2? Okay, so here's your chance to ask me some questions. Anybody have any questions about part 2, about what I just did there with the notes and the note-taking, quantitative, visible language, anything that was discussed? The next lesson, Alien Eater, will be tomorrow, same time, 4:30 to roughly about 6, maybe 6:30, and I'll be doing a task 1, task 2 writing example. Okay, I'm going to do a couple more questions from part 3 here before we finish, but I want to give you a chance to ask me some questions about part 2. Anybody have any questions about part 2? Her and I is okay, Jeffrey. She and I is okay as well. I think her and I is better. The thing with Jeffrey, that question about grammar, her and I or she and I, you won't lose marks for that. There are some natural grammar mistakes in speech, and if you make those natural grammar mistakes in speech. One of the common ones is people say, if I was a doctor. Of course, correct grammar is if I were a doctor, but a lot of native speakers will say, if I was a doctor. If you make that speech or that grammar mistake in speech that's natural to English speakers, you probably won't lose marks for that. Nothing significant anyway, you could still get 9. It is 4:30 Naitik. It is 4:30 in the afternoon Central European Budapest time. Yes, Saurabh. You're asking me, is there any negative if you speak less than 2 minutes? It depends. If you speak 20, 30 seconds less, like you speak for 90 seconds, but you do a good job of answering all of the questions and you've expressed your ideas clearly, you've given some good examples, visible language, quantifiable language, and you did that in 90 seconds, you could still get a great score and you not lose marks. If you only speak for a minute, you're probably missing details and so on. So ideally, you are as close to 2 minutes as possible, okay? But it's not a good idea to just talk, talk, talk and not finish before the 2 minutes. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, that's right. Farouk is saying you can talk between 1 and 2 minutes, and that's usually what the instruction says. You will have time to answer 1 to 2 minutes, okay? So 1 minute is the absolute minimum. You should try to reach 90 seconds and hopefully get as close to 2 minutes as possible, giving enough details, okay? Yeah, that's right, Alien Eater. I just mentioned that. The correct way to express it is if I were, but when you're speaking to a lot of English speakers, you'll notice whether they're from the US, UK, Australia, a lot of them will say if I was, okay? It's just a common spoken mistake. All right. The cue card for today, Lytton, is from test 3 from our first book, and you can get that from aehelp.com, gltshelp.com, general IELTS for GLTS, aehelp.com for academic IELTS, and also you can buy the books now on Amazon, so you can buy our books in e-reader form or in paperback form, okay? Yes, Sarab Kumar, you should try to conclude your conversation. It's kind of awkward when a student just keeps talking and talking and talking, and the examiner actually has to go, okay, that's the end of part 2, just stop talking. This is a really awkward kind of interruption, and that's usually not a good sign. Okay? You need to be able to summarize it in that 2 minute. I can't read the Cyrillic. You're asking me if you practice the 2 minutes is never enough time. You need to make more brief and stay more on point or on topic in the controlling idea. Okay, all right. BFF means best friends for life, Rashid. Marwan saying, let's jump to part 3. I'm on the same page, so let's do that. Let's get into a couple of part 3 questions. Part 3, don't panic, okay? Stay calm, stay focused. First question, what qualities should a friend have? Okay, qualities means it's a plural, so you need to have at least a couple of answers for that one, all right? Hint, hint. Can somebody give me some answers, or can a few students or anyone try to give me some good answers for that one? What qualities should a friend have? Give me some nice answers for that. Again, you want to stay quantitative, you want to stay visible, and you want to choose answers that 9 out of 10 people would likely say. That's a hint. Honest and loyal are probably very good. Careful, because loyal and honest are somewhat similar, so you might have a bit of difficulty separating those out. Same with honest and integrity, or trustworthy and honest. Those are very similar. So honest is one. And again, give me full sentence answers, girls and guys. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Yes, Manmohan, that's a good way to start, but then you need to explain what that is. So you could start by... Well, if your English is good enough, you can do this. Well, I've always liked the expression, a friend in need is a friend indeed. But then, you don't want to just use that expression. You want to be able to explain it. What I mean is, a good friend should always be supportive, especially in challenging situations. For instance, Anar was really kind and consoling when I broke up with my first boyfriend. Okay? All right, yeah, if you want to push that level 9, you can throw that in there. But be really careful, girls and guys, if you're using expressions, okay? I know a lot of students like to throw an expression or an idiom in there. I usually tell students, stay away from those. Only use those if you have very high level of English and you're very confident. Just repeat after me. Well, I've always liked the expression, a friend in need is a friend indeed. What I mean is, a good friend should always be supportive, especially in challenging situations. For instance, Anar was really kind and consoling when I broke up with my first boyfriend. Okay? Guljan says, it is very important to have a trustworthy friend who I can lean on and who can not only be with me in difficult situations, but also make me happy. Guljan, notice something really important that I did there. In your comment, you say you. You're not talking about me. Don't use second person voice. You're talking about yourself, okay? So direct it towards yourself. I always highly suggest students to stay away from that second person voice, you. That can get you into awkward and difficult situations in conversation. Okay? Friends are important to keep life exciting, James. Stay on the positive side. So, James, you're saying friends are important because they keep us from boredom. That's okay, but it's always better to give the positive argument than the negative. So, friends are always important because they keep life exciting. We get to go to parties with them. We get to hang out and talk about life. Makes for a ton of fun, okay? So, yeah, avoid saying you. Yeah, definitely, girls and guys. Avoid saying you, okay? And remember, the question was a plural. So, of course, another key quality in a friend is honesty. It is the foundation for friendship. All right? Because it was a plural. Don't forget to reflect the nature of that question. All right. Let's take one more question. Do you enjoy making new friends? Let's take that last one. Do you enjoy making new friends, or do you prefer spending more time with your current friends? So try to answer that one for me, please. Do you enjoy making new friends, or do you prefer to spend more time with your current friends? Okay, I'm not going to help you out on this one. I'm going to give this one to you. I'm just going to let you know my opinion about your answer, and if I think that's a high quality answer that would get a nice high band score or not. So let me have it. Let me have your answers, girls and guys. Do you enjoy making new friends, or do you prefer to spend more time with your current friends? Full sentences. I wouldn't go with the both of them. You're going to get yourself into trouble, especially since the question is saying spend more time with your current friends. That means that you have to choose one, because you're either spending more time with current friends or you're making new friends. It'd be almost impossible to do both. You'd have to split into two people, so pay careful attention. They're the same, Saras, to give you an answer there. Very little difference between the two. So Amit says, to be honest, I'm fond of connecting with new mates. If you're in Australia, that's great. Yeah, British use it too. Indeed, it is my passion. Amit, give me some more information, okay? It's a good start. It's a great start, but you want to give me some more information. Rohit says, I always prefer to spend my time with old friends because they know the most about me and our past history. This way we can get into deeper conversations that gives more meaning to my life. For instance, and then continue. Jeffrey says, of course, it's always exciting when I meet different people with varying personalities. My old friends might not have any more exciting news to tell me. So I don't want to spend too much more time to get to know them, okay? Keep it to yourself, Jeffrey. So talk about yourself first person, I, me, my. In this fast-paced life with a lot of time constraints, I really prefer to strengthen my relationships with my old friends. Manmohan Singh, that's a great start. Nice grammar. It's almost flawless. Nice use of language. I'm really enjoying it. Give me a little bit more detail, and I'll give you a 9. Until now, I'll give you an 8. Okay? So band 8. Give me a little bit more, and I'll give you a 9. Jeffrey, stop sulking and forward and onward, my good man. Try to come up with another example. All right, Chandramuli. I make friends at the very opportunity I get and try my best to keep in touch with my old friends, but there's always a special place for my best friend. It's a little bit off topic, okay? It doesn't really tackle this specific question. Be careful not to give me a parallel answer that's a bit off topic. Okay, Deepa Pandey says, I don't want to make more friends because I believe that true friends take time. There has to be a history, there has to be experience. So a little bit more clear there at the end, Deepa. Renan Duarte, well, I believe friendships need to be nurtured. So I think it's necessary to spend as much time as possible with my current friends in order to strengthen these relationships. For these very reasons, I meet with my good group of friends for at least 2 to 3 hours every single Friday or Saturday. And we do something fun like go to the club, go to a restaurant, or go out and watch a movie. All right, so Renan, it's a great start, okay? Good use of the word nurtured, absolutely. Nice complex grammar. Just give me a little bit more at the end. Give me some quantifiable information. Okay, girls and guys, I'm going to cut it off there. Although I wish I could be here forever. I got a lot of other things to tend to. You did a wonderful job. Thank you so much to all of those students for your wonderful effort, your comments. I know that your brains are working and turning and you're thinking to come up with these expressions, this grammar, the vocabulary that you're using. So that's fantastic. Good on you. You will become expert communicators in English, superior to even many native speakers if you keep up these good studies. So do keep them up. Don't just pass the IELTS, but become as good as you can be, and you will reach greatness in life. Make sure to visit us at aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Again, you can get our books now on Amazon. So if you look for AE Help IELTS test books or GE Helps IELTS test books or TOEFL Test Help book, TE Helps TOEFL Test book. If you're studying TOEFL, you can get that too. And again, sponsor our YouTube channel. Become some of the first sponsors. We'll include you in some exclusive live classes, speaking classes like this one, where there will be way less students, so you get a lot more interaction. Also, we'll give you access to our test books if you become a sponsor, so you don't need to buy them, okay? The cost of one book from Amazon is the same as 3 months of sponsorship. So don't do both, okay? Don't buy them from Amazon and sponsor us, because then you're kind of wasting money. But up to you. Okay, thank you so much for watching, girls and guys. I wish you an awesome rest of your day or your evening. I know it's quite late in some of your countries. If it's very late and you're getting ready for bed, make sure to hydrate, relax, let go, and have a wonderful sleep and some nice dreams. And I will see you tomorrow, same time, 16:30 Central European Budapest time. We will be looking at task 1, task 2, writing, some strategies, some example. Bye for now.